We are almost in September. It is sad.
This is really sad.
It
Kids are
is.
back in school. Now all the sports start. We have something like 6 nights a week, and I just want to fall over already. I don't even take Marcus. It just like stresses me out. Like, why do we have so many things? No, we have good stuff going on. I don't know what we're going to do with his jujitsu. Probably pause it for a little bit because he's got soccer 4 nights a week just alone. So
Yeah, baseball's 3 days a week right now, and we didn't do flag football. The hard thing is Taylor's, like, I feel bad not putting Taylor in stuff too, even though she's young.
second child always like gets shafted. I
They
feel
get,
like.
yeah, they get the shaft, and like she, I put Carson in stuff at his age, at her age, but like it's just extra effort, and I'm like, do I really need to put her in swim? But we should put her back in swim lessons because we took a pause in the summer because she was in the pool so much. And she loved gymnastics, and I'm a huge proponent of like getting your child in gymnastics, even if they are not going to do gymnastics long term, because it's just so good for body awareness, and strength. And Art just put a timer up.
So apparently some of y'all have been complaining about our child talk. So we'll keep it like 3 minutes today. I'm like, some people love it. And then all these people on YouTube apparently are hating on us. They're like, just get to the point. Well, I'm like, I have news for you. There's a fast forward button. Okay. We don't even bore you with ads like all the other podcasts do. We're
Let's talk about our life.
And apparently no one cares as much as we do.
This is Liz and I's chance to catch up.
Oh shit. No, I do feel like the second child gets shafted because even for Ethan, I'm like, not doing that again. Like not doing baby swim classes. That was ridiculous.
Such a waste of money.
Waste of time. I will fill my bathtub up and we will work on it at home because we can sing all those stupid, silly songs that we sang there for not $300 a month. And then I took Marcus to this like gymnastics thing. And it was at the community center, you know, and I feel like community centers are totally like hit or miss with their instructors.
Yep.
And ninjas we really liked. So like Ethan definitely when he is there, you know, he can do that. But yeah, I even had a friend, she used to take her baby to baby singing class. And I'm like, I never understood why you would pay money. But then part of me says, okay, maybe like it was just a way to get out of the house and like mingle with other people for sure. But let's call it what it is. Like mom's hour out instead of, you know,
baby singing.
I like yesterday wanted to work out and I had Ethan with me. It was like after work and I was like, all right, I'm just going to put on the baby music and then all the things start coming back from, you know. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know what we're going to do with Ethan. He just right now needs to say mama and he's working on crawling, but I think he's honestly just going to be a kid that's like going to go straight to walking. He's like not interested in the whole, like he gets up on all fours, but like try to help him. He tries to pull himself up. And so I'm like, you're probably just going to walk.
Yeah. I stopped worrying so much about like all of the milestones and hitting them when they're supposed. I'm like, I'll know if something's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not worried that like at 3.5 months, they didn't hit X, Y, and Z. It's like, I think you can follow your intuition.
And the comparison game.
Yes.
When people are like, oh, are they crawling yet? Or I love my mother-in-law, but she's always asking about other kids like in his class. What are they doing? What are they doing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know these people. They're not my problem. It's not my child. My job is to handle the 2 that I've been given. And I think we're doing good so far because they're both still alive.
They're relatively healthy and sane. Oh my goodness. Yes. So
all right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly, because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes, you need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking. Water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better in fact, and that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster. Today's topic we wanted to do because we actually had an interview that I don't know if it will come out yet, but we kind of dove into the topic of iodine in that interview. And I was like, we just need to do a solo podcast on iodine and help people understand the importance of it and what it can cause when it's deficient, because it's a very common deficiency. And we want to talk why it's a common deficiency, because it's understandable once you start to hear the reasoning behind it. But a lot of women struggle because of iodine deficiency, and it's missed, especially in perimenopause, when a lot of these issues start popping up. So
I also want to say that it's very heavily missed and linked to some clinical hypothyroidism, which you will make some correlations as we get into signs and symptoms, but also with fibroids and PCOS. And that's actually how that conversation got started. So Dr. Sarah Daccaret from Inner Balance, she'll be airing September 10th, so a couple weeks away. But we were talking about something, and I brought up this case, a friend of mine actually from college that I'm working with. I was able to correlate some things for her. She's already done having kids, but very sadly, this iron deficiency, low iodine, low thyroid function, and she has some signs of PCOS on her labs, but she does not present like physical signs. She doesn't have insulin resistance. She's not overweight, any of those things. And so we're talking about this, and I'm like, listen, I really think a lot of this has to do with iodine deficiency. And so as we kind of dove into that, Dr. Sarah was like, absolutely, because so many people walk around with low T4, and a large part of the building blocks for T4, your inactive thyroid hormone, or your prohormone to active thyroid hormone, is iodine, as well as other things like tyrosine and iron and amino acids and zinc, selenium, all those things. So I just want to bring that up because as we go through some of the signs and symptoms, it may be an aha moment for you. Like when we think about thyroid, and we've talked about this many other podcasts, it is not always a thyroid issue. So imagine how many problems we could solve for people with this very important mineral. It's not the miracle mineral, I think, is magnesium, but it is up there in terms of how many functions it plays within the body and how far downstream it has an impact, right? Even when we get into pregnancy and fertility and hormones and breast health and fibroids and uterine health and all of these things. So really take this to heart today. And we are also going to reference, if you go to Dr. Jockers, he's got a great article that talks about iodine deficiency. And I love his patch test. I actually use this with some of my clients because if I'm going to recommend someone take iodine, we'll have them measure their neck once a week just to watch that we're not getting any growth in the neck. But when you're testing in serum, this is only what's circulating in the blood. It's not really giving an indication of what's in the tissue. And it's kind of expensive and it's not accessible for everyone. So I do appreciate on his blog, he has a skin patch test that you can do. And so I will use that in addition to measuring the neck to make sure that I have, the people dosing this appropriately in terms of taking iodine, solo.
Yeah. So iodine, unfortunately, is more of like a bad rap instead of a good rap in use in medicine, mainly because excess iodine, which is very rare, can trigger hyperthyroidism. So that's an overactive thyroid, much less common than hypothyroidism. And because of this, physicians were trained basically to be overly cautious. And in really old studies, what they did was they used really high doses of iodine and found that excess iodine can cause iodine-induced thyrotoxicosis, which is basically like toxicity to the thyroid. And then in medicine, radioactive iodine is used to basically destroy the thyroid in cases of thyroid cancer. And so they created a lot of fear, unfounded fear, honestly, in and around iodine use. And in all honesty, iodine deficiency is so much more common than iodine toxicity. And so we want to talk about the deficiency, which again, much more common, and what it can impact, because I think a lot of people are struggling from more deficiency symptoms than they are in the possibility of toxicity. Because again, we'll talk about why deficiency is so common and why toxicity is so rare. So iodine affects that thyroid function. Liz already talked about this a little bit, but iodine is basically the raw material for your thyroid to use to make T4 and T3. Without it, metabolism slows down, energy drops, and weight becomes far more difficult to lose. Breast health. Breast tissue has iodine receptors. Adequate iodine can help protect against fibrocystic breast changes, so dense breast tissue, and overall just support breast health. So when iodine is deficient, cells in the tissues of the breast are more likely to undergo what's called hyperplasia, which is basically overgrowth, and leads to fibrocystic breast changes and fibroids. Okay, so adequate iodine normalizes cell growth, reduces cyst formation, tenderness, and nodularity in the breasts. Like, hard stop, you guys. So many women in perimenopause struggle with breast tenderness, struggle with dense breast tissue, struggle with fibroids and cysts, also struggle with hypothyroidism. It's so common. Pregnancy and fertility. Iodine is essential for fetal brain development. Deficiency during pregnancy can increase risk of miscarriages, developmental delays, and impaired IQ. And then hormonal imbalance. So iodine regulates estrogen metabolism, and it supports detox pathways, making it especially critical in perimenopause and beyond. We actually detox estrogen in your breast and uterine tissue. There are pathways in those tissues that help to detoxify. And when we lack iodine, that tissue can get saturated with estrogen, which then struggles to detoxify. So iodine helps to basically support the breakdown of E1, which is estrone, into safer metabolites, rather than more proliferative, growth-stimulating forms of estrogen, which is what E1 can turn into. It can turn into the more potent, like growth stimulating. When you think of cancers, you think of fibroids, you think of these cysts. They are basically abnormal growths of tissue. Iodine can help prevent that.
Yep. Another big thing that iodine can help with is detoxification of heavy metals, and it also acts as an antimicrobial. So if you are somebody, and in this case that I talked about with Dr. Sarah in the upcoming podcast, we made a lot of correlations that she also has H. pylori and low stomach acid, right? So when we think about why the person may not be sufficient with iodine, we'll talk about some of the things in terms of like our diet and our soil, but also nutrient absorption, right? They could be eating a diet that is really supportive of adequate iodine levels, but they're not absorbing everything and all of their nutrients. And so one of the things with iodine is it's antimicrobial against H. pylori. So it also helps detoxify different pathogens from your body. There was a 2013 study published in Thyroid that suggests that iodine offers extrathyroidal actions, including antioxidants and apoptotic benefits as well. Then we also look at skin issues. So if you are somebody who has dry, flaky, inflamed, irritated, or really rough skin, you want to look at your thyroid, T4, but also think about iodine deficiencies because this can affect your hair, your dental health. Iodine can, for example, also result in hair loss along with that unhealthy skin. We also know that the blood flow really matters here. Obviously, the health of the follicle, what you're putting on your skin. But there was a study in 2010 in the Journal of Tropical Pediatrics that found iodine and other trace elements have been connected to healthy hair and skin. And iodine can help regenerate skin and help reduce dry and flaky skin. So again, we always think about skin as healing from the inside out. Is an iodine deficiency that some people are overlooking when they're just trying to do all of these topical creams and serums and medications or whatever, right? So when we think about, other signs and symptoms, a lot of these are going to correlate with low thyroid function or hormonal imbalances. So fatigue and low energy.
If you wake up feeling puffy in the morning, your ankles or wrists feel swollen, your rings feel really tight, or that awful puffy face feeling, typically it's a sign that you need electrolytes. And a lot of people actually even get bloated from drinking water because that's not proper hydration. Electrolytes are needed to actually pull the water into the cells in the body. And believe it or not, when you get more hydrated, you look thinner, you look leaner, because water isn't extracellular making you all puffy, it's intracellular hydrating you. And that's why we love Buoy. Squirt it in my water all day long because it's simple, it's effective, and it doesn't have all of the junk that a lot of the powders have. So this is my choice.
Very, very common for somebody who is sleeping well but not feeling rested to have an iodine deficiency. Hair loss, especially on the outer third of eyebrows. We also correlate that with low functioning thyroid overall, cold hands, cold feet, feeling chilled easily, brain fog, poor concentration, swollen thyroid, or feeling a fullness in the neck. So this is where you would want to have a scan, make sure you don't have goiters, look at your antibodies and all those types of things. Weight gain and resistant to diet and exercise. So weight loss resistant. Irregular cycles, fertility changes, PMS changes, breast tenderness, as Becca said, right? Cystic fibroids, those types of things. And then again, just this general feeling that I'm doing all the things right, but I'm not getting better. I'm struggling to detoxify. And maybe you've done a lot of work on the internal health, but you're just not seeing that reflect externally. This is something that I would definitely consider. Have you missed the mark and have you overlooked this very important mineral? And so when we think about why it's so common, I already mentioned this, but our soil is depleted. Same thing with magnesium. Over 75% of the US is depleted in magnesium or deficient in magnesium from what we need. And so when we look at that, that's because of the agriculture practices that have, changed our soil. We look at all of the crazy things, the chemicals that they're spraying, and herbicides and pesticides and all of that stuff. Then we look at processed foods. We're looking at non-iodized salt here. So decades ago, table salt was fortified with iodine. Many of us have switched to gourmet salt or mineral salts or things like that are a little bit less or don't contain iodine at all. But then, and this is one thing that we talked about with Dr. Sarah, when you are starting to support someone with iodine for their thyroid, you might notice they start rashing. And this actually is because she talks about the halogen competition. And so I think this is a really big one, especially when we go back and listen to our fluoride podcast. So this competition basically says that iodine belongs to this family that has fluoride, bromine, and chlorine. And these chemically, their compounds are very similar. And so these receptors, these iodine receptors that we have that should be in our thyroid, they often get taken up with fluoride, bromine, or chlorine. And so you think about this, we're exposed to that pretty much every day because it's in our water supply. Obviously, every dentist you go to is pushing fluoride on you, looks at you like you're nuts if you don't take the fluoride treatment. By the way, we have had several dentists on our podcast now that even talk about how they would much rather see people using the Boccas and some of these other remineralizing toothpaste that do just as good of a job without all the effects of fluoride. So make sure that you're looking at that too. Plus, if you're not filtering your water, we have a lot of chlorine in our water, right? We have chlorine in cleaning products and bleach and all of those things. And so all of these compete and they crowd out iodine. And so therefore it's displacing it in your body. Your body can't use it. But one of the things that Sarah talked about is if you have someone starting iodine and you're going at higher doses because like I am deficient and I need my tissues to get saturated, what it's going to do is it's going to essentially bump out or kick off the fluoride, chlorine, or bromine from those receptors so that it can take residence there. And as you detox that might come out your skin and look like a rash. We found that really interesting. Neither one of us had known that before, but it makes a lot of sense when you look at this. And so when you kick out those things, you're able to put the iodine in place. You're going to get a much healthier picture. And I'm sure some of those symptoms are going to start to turn around, right away.
Yeah. And that's why when we do use it in practice, a lot of times we have to high dose iodine for a short period, a 1 to 2 week period to basically saturate the receptors and get rid of what is blocking it. And then you can lower down to more of like a consistent dose. Another reason that we see this iodine deficiency is because in general, we do not eat iodine containing foods. And iodine containing foods are seaweed, seafood, things that are very common in traditional cultures elsewhere. But in America, not many people, I don't think many people gravitate to seafood. I love seafood, but we don't cook it often at home because 1, getting good seafood is very hard in our area. And 2, I'm not good at cooking seafood. I feel like it's very hard to cook. You can overcook it very easily. It can sometimes again, if you don't get good, great quality ones, it's very gamey and just gross. So I know we maybe eat seafood once every couple of weeks. And my husband doesn't love salmon and that's the one that I would eat the most of. So it's most people that we talk to, it's a very common, I don't eat seafood is a common comment that we get from clients, not a thing. So very uncommon to get the right types of foods that contain iodine. So how can you support it? Food sources, obviously, seaweed, kelp, nori, seafood. Pasture raised eggs have some iodine in them, and then dairy. Certain types of good quality dairies can also provide some iodine. Liz mentioned salt. If you use salt, you can look for an iodized salt or rotate in seaweed flakes as a natural seasoning. They do have kind of a strong taste, so some people may not like them, but obviously it's an option. Detox support, supporting liver detoxification and minimizing halogen exposure. All of those things that we already talked about that contain these halogens, minimizing, getting a good reverse osmosis system in your house, cleaning, changing out your cleaning products. That's why we love Truly Free. It's affordable and it doesn't contain all of the junk. Fluoride in your toothpaste, right? Like getting rid of a lot of those things that can then compete for the iodine receptors. And then supplementation. You know, you do need to be cautious because of the potential risk. Iodine is a type of thing that it can be overdosed. It can get to toxic levels. And so you just need to be careful. Usually we start at around 500 micrograms to a milligram a day, or every other day even. And then you watch and you see how are the symptoms. You watch, you can look at blood work, although blood work is more what's in your serum, not in your tissues. So if you are supplementing, it might show high. But that is another way that you can test. There are certain tests that you can do where you consume iodine and then you basically take a urine test and it can see how much you're excreting. So it's showing like how much you're actually absorbing it. And that can be a certain type of functional test that you can do. We've done that with clients before. You can get iodine on labs. We're looking at somewhere around like a 60 to an 80 serum level is an optimal iodine level. If you're anything below a 40, you're definitely showing a high deficiency. So there are things you can definitely test. It's not the easiest thing to test for. I will say that.
Yeah. So the way that I personally go about it in clinical practice is I'm looking at what are their T4 levels? How is the thyroid responding? What are their symptoms? I'm doing the iodine patch test from Dr. Jockers on the skin. And then if you are somebody who's just really hesitant, you can also use a great product called Ilaria Supreme from Supreme Nutrition. And so that's basically a trace mineral support that's high in iodine because it's made from kelp. So they just basically took all that seaweed and kelp and all the nutrients and put it into capsules so that you don't have to eat it or consume it. I will tell you that you kind of get some burps sometimes. So make sure you take it with food or maybe space it out because it's 3 capsules a day. So those are also some of the things that can, be helpful for you. But again, working with the provider and recognizing that there's other root causes beyond this. But I do know for many people that we work with, and especially in the perimenopause years where we see thyroid function slowing down, this can be very, very beneficial and be a game changer because sometimes they're not responding or don't even need other things, to support their thyroid that they might be taking, like glandulars that are more expensive products. What they need is iodine, right? And then we can correct the issues that they have and fill in the gaps where maybe we still have symptom resolvement to address. So if that's something that you are, interested in working with our team on, you want to get a comprehensive lab and review, maybe you want to do that serum testing because you're a little nervous, totally fine. We can always add that to our comprehensive panels and the links are in the show notes for that. And if you found this helpful, please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share it out.